Ash Ketchum, a character that's been around for 2 decades within the anime sphere and of course within the Pokemon anime, and been a main character we followed for several different journeys all the way from Kanto to Alola and now also to the Galar region sooner or later. Ladies and gentlemen, Ash has had a lot of different Pokemon that he's caught, traded, evolved, all that stuff, but today I want to rank all these Pokemon from worst to best, and this will include Pokemon that he's caught, traded, and whatnot, but will not include Pokemon that he only had for like a singular, temporary type of moment. So yeah, either way, we're going to go through all these, starting with the worst one on the list right now. So we're starting with Ash's Oshawott, and Oshawott to me was a horrible Pokemon. Now, I personally hate Oshawott across the board. It's a Pokemon that I do like, just generally dislike, but also its demeanor within the anime was just so awful. It was such an annoying Pokemon, just really, really frustrating. Kind of reminds me a lot of Piplup from the anime, which I also just kind of despise. So yeah, definitely Oshawott on the worst of the Pokemon Ash has ever owned. Next is going to be Unfezant, and Unfezant was a Pokemon that just didn't really achieve anything, and also one of the worst kind of starter bird Pokemon kind of across the board, especially like compared to other ones like Staraptor, Pidgey. It's, you know, like those Pokemon like Taillow, whatnot. It just really doesn't achieve that much in my opinion, and was one of the worst Pokemon Ash probably owned. Next up is going to be Poipole. Now, it's not really a bad Pokemon per se, it's just that it never really does much for Ash, and now it's kind of just generally speaking gone. He kind of, you know, just released it and whatnot. And a Pokemon that I feel like could have done a lot more, especially if it evolved into Naganadel, but just kind of overall useless. Next up is going to be Leavanny. Now, Leavanny to me is a Pokemon that actually was really awesome in the anime, but to me personally, just, I don't know, man, I just never really clicked for me. I never really cared much for this Pokemon personally, so that's really the only reason it's this far down. Probably shouldn't be this far down, but that's just a general feeling I have about it. Next is going to be Ash's Boldore. Now, wow, this Pokemon is a strange one. It could have been like a real top gunner if it fully evolved and like got its final stage, but it never really did, and that's really what kind of ruined it for me. It could have done a lot, really, like a lot, and you know, the fact that Ash got it as a rug and roller and whatnot, it, you know, could have had a lot of potential, but never really completed that. Next is going to be Ash's Torkoal. Now, this Pokemon was adorable. It was really cute, but unfortunately, Torkoal as a Pokemon across the board just never really got much done. It just kind of unfortunately ended up being pretty lackluster, so that's kind of sad. Next is going to be Ash's Pignite. Now, boy, do I not like this Pokemon for one simple reason, because I just do not care for Pignite. I do like its pre-evolution. As a Tepic, it had a pretty sad backstory and whatnot, which was kind of unfortunate, but just Pignite itself just wasn't that much. I really would prefer this evolved into an actual Emboar instead. It would have been way cooler. Next up is going to be Palpitoad. I think Palpitoad is adorable as a Pokemon. I think it's cute, but it's a Pokemon that really just kind of lost a lot of potential. It would have been better if it actually evolved. It would have been way cooler. Next is going to be Ash's Torterra, and boy, this Pokemon is a lost cause. Reason? Because as a Turtwig, it was really strong. As a Turtwig, it did a lot of work for Ash, won a lot of battles, but as it evolved all the way into a Torterra, man, it lost a lot of stuff. It really ended up being such a useless Pokemon in Ash's party. It really got no work done at this point. Like, it's such an unfortunate type of thing, right? And for me personally, Torterra is just you know, across the board on all the lists of Pokemon I like. It definitely is, like, you know, pretty high up there, but man, it didn't achieve much within, you know, Ash's team. It just really got worse as it evolved, and that's kind of the sad part. Next up is going to be Ash's Glalie, and okay, this one started out as a Snorunt, as you guys may remember, and of course it evolved later on. Unfortunately, though, it just didn't do much beyond that. It just kind of just got a little bit lost across the board once it evolved as well, kind of similar to how Torterra just, you know, just kind of lost a lot of its, you know, kind of like its umph as it evolved, which is kind of unfortunate. Next is going to be Ash's Seaking. So this is a Pokemon that a lot of people don't even remember, and the reason why is because it only really showed up and was caught but never really used. It was captured by Ash during a fishing contest in the Johto region, as you guys may remember. The only reason it's here on this part of the list, higher up than most of the other Pokemon we just looked at so far, is because I love fishing and I love the Johto region, and those are two things that match up very good in my opinion, and that's the only reason it's actually here. Next up is going to be Ash's Pidgeot, and boy, this Pokemon had a lot of potential. Unfortunately, that potential wasn't, you know, really completed there. So, you guys remember, this is Ash's, like, probably third Pokemon he ever owned, and the second Pokemon he ever caught, which was caught as a Pidgeotto in the Viridian Forest, and was used in a few gym battles, but man, it always ended up getting really badly hurt, and always ended up losing a lot of its battles, which is very unfortunate, because it was a cool Pokemon, man, but it never really got to complete its full potential, in my opinion. Next up is going to be Ambipom, or rather Apom, and man, this Pokemon is, oof, this is a weird one, right? Because the reason it's weird is because it kind of like stalked Ash for a long time, right? Until Ash finally decided to battle it and actually catch this Pokemon. And even when he caught it, it still ended up being mischievous and weird. But then eventually he traded it with Dawn for her Weasel, which was a really good trade because Weasel ended up being a really great Pokemon. But we'll get to that one later though. Next up is going to be Ash's Toro. So, of course, you guys remember Ash just caught a bunch of these Toros within the Safari Zone. But what I do like about Toros, though, and the one that he actually ends up using in battle later on, you know, through one of the, like, I think the Master Quest, episodes in one of the leagues, he actually uses it. And that part is really cool because it actually does a lot of work there. Like, it actually does well in the battle and isn't totally useless, which, you know, some of the other Pokemon Ash owns kind of are sometimes. But it was a, you know, kind of a strange Pokemon. I really liked it. And I do love the episode that it's, you know, that it's within, or rather all of them are within. So, yeah. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Torkoal. Now, yeah, I know, you know, Torkoal is one of the newer Pokemon Ash's own, and it has a little bit of a, you know, kind of a dark backstory and whatnot, you guys may know. But overall, though, I think Ash's Torkoal, to me, only is this far down for the simple fact that I just do not really like Torkoal as a Pokemon. Not really Ash's Torkoal, but just Torkoal in general. And I really just hope it actually evolves, because then I will genuinely love it if it evolves. Like, honestly, that'll be fantastic. So, that's what I'm going to say about that one. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Melton. And the only reason this Pokemon is higher than Torkoal is because of its dynamic with Rowlett. And as you guys know, Rowlett is my homeboy. I love Rowlett. It's the probably best Pokemon in the Sun and Moon anime so far because it's so freaking weird and stupid, and that's what I like about it. It's such a weird and, like, you know, just chubby little bird. It's just, I don't know what to say about it, man. But Melton really matches well with it, though. I think their little, like, you know, kind of intermingling is really, really cool. So definitely one that I really, really like. And yeah, really awesome. Next up is going to be Ash's Snivy, and oh boy, this Pokemon only really showed up for a short amount of time. Did a lot of work, actually, for Ash, though, if I'm going to be frankly honest. Like, actually not really show up for such a short amount of time. I mean, it was with Ash for a while, and it did a lot of work when the episodes that Ash used it in battles and whatnot. Just unfortunately, it never really got to evolve and just kind of complete its full, you know, potential with Ash, so kind of sad about that, though. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Scraggy, a bit further up than Snivy for the fact that I just really love Scraggy in general. Unfortunately, though, this was a very bad Pokemon for Ash. It really didn't do much in battles and stuff, was kind of useless, and eventually Ash just kind of like, just, you know, didn't really care about using it anymore, which was unfortunate, though. But next up is going to be Ash's Donphan, a Pokemon that Ash got through an egg, actually, or hatched from an egg, which is a few, like, just one of few Pokemon that actually does hatch from that sort of, you know, method for Ash, and honestly, a cool Pokemon. I very fondly remember it for one single factor, and that's because of the anime, you know, like, rather the movie, the Pokemon, the first, you know, Mewtwo Strikes Back movie. In that movie, there's actually a Donphan that, you know, this other guy uses when he battles Ash in the opening scene, and I love that so much, that, you know, that scene in general. And I remember Donphan because of that, and when Ash actually got a Donphan, it was just such a cool, like, moment. It was like, oh my god, this is awesome. So that's why I remember that one fondly in particular. But next up is going to be Ash's Bayleaf, and boy, this was an unfortunate Pokemon that really didn't get to do much. It wasn't used in that many battles, and when it was used, it just wasn't really that useful. So kind of an unfortunate Pokemon, but I keep it a bit higher up because I like Bayleaf, you know, it deserves to be up here. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Swellow, and okay, this is a Pokemon that I really like. Okay, Ash's Swellow is very unique, and of course, Swellow is one of the coolest, like, you know, starting bird type Pokemon that you can have in any region. I think it's one of the coolest ones, so that's why it's this far up in the list. Next up is going to be Ash's Weasel, and boy, this was one of Ash's probably most useful Pokemon, and probably one of the best trades Ash could have ever made. Unfortunately, never got to evolve either. It would have been so cool if it did, because it could have, you know, fulfilled so much more if it did, though. But when it was used, it was useful for Ash. Unfortunately, never got to go further than that. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Gibble, and this Pokemon was somewhat, you know, somewhat useless. It kind of helped out here and there, but just wasn't that useful. But the only reason I really like it is because of its kind of, like, you know, angry demeanor towards kind of, like, you know, Piplup and whatnot. You know, that's just kind of stuff. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know, dude. I kind of like that. Like, but overall, a Pokemon that really didn't do much for Ash, but it was pretty cute, though, so. Next up is going to be Ash's Crocodile, or whatever you want to call it. This Pokemon was really cool. It was another Pokemon, just like how we have with Squirtle, where it basically wears, like, glasses and is really badass, and that's what I like about it, dude. Its personality was really cool, and that's what was probably the best part about this Pokemon. Next up is going to be Ash's Noivern, a Pokemon that actually was really freaking awesome, though it was really strange because it's also one of those Pokemon that's kind of, like, hatched, you know, into existence for, you know, Ash and whatnot. I don't know what to say about it, though, man. It hatched from an egg, but as it evolved, like, initially it was kind of a weird Pokemon, but as it evolved, it was actually really, really useful in several battles for Ash. Like, genuinely, it did a lot of work. It was a really good Pokemon, and, man, I don't know what to say, dude. It was a really cool Pokemon, though. Next up is going to be Ash's Staraptor, and oh boy, this is a Pokemon that just, I genuinely love, man. It was in several battles, did a lot of great work, was a really cool and badass Pokemon in general, though, and man, it just really fit well in Ash's team. It really did a lot of great work. Next up is Ash's Bulbasaur, a Pokemon that came into his, life very early on in Ash's journey, alongside Pikachu, Charmander, and the other boys, as, probably should include Squirtle in there, but yeah, Bulbasaur, cute Pokemon, always loved how it was able to paralyze other Pokemon, whatnot, with its moves, the fact that, it's a poison type and whatnot, just really came well in hand, if I'm going to be frankly honest. It was a cute Pokemon, was really useful also to Ash in his journey initially, in the kind of like first season, so definitely a cool Pokemon. Next up is going to be Ash's Squirtle, and I mainly remember this one very fondly because of the fact that, the Squirtle squad, with their glasses and looking all badass and stuff, like, man, you cannot forget that. It was just one of the coolest episodes and, like, coolest parts ever, and the fact that one of them boys wanted to squad up with Ash was freaking awesome. Next up is going to be Ash's Torkoal, and okay, I know Torkoal was useless, but I love that it always, like, went around and, like, started biting people and whatnot, and just dancing around, being very jolly and happy, and that's kind of what made it the most, like, likable for me, was the fact that it was such a jolly Pokemon, even though it was useless in battles, and that's what made it so, like, lovely to me. I would have loved it, loved it even more if it actually evolved. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Quilava, a Pokemon that unfortunately didn't get to do a lot, during its stages as a Cyndaquil. It did, like, a little bit more, but then as it turned into Quilava, it was brought in a few times here and there for a few battles, did a little bit of work, whatnot, but I really would have wished that this said Pokemon had evolved into Typhlosion, and Ash used it way more during his time in Johto. Like, imagine if Ash had a Typhlosion in Johto. It would have been so freaking cool, man, but unfortunately that never happened, which is really sad if I'm going to be frankly honest. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Noctowl, and I love this Pokemon for the single fact that it's actually a shiny Pokemon that Ash owns. Now, not that strong in battles, but overall, so cool because it's a shiny. Next up, Ash's Snorlax, a Pokemon that really is a strong Pokemon in Ash's team. Really strong. But, unfortunately, though, always falls asleep. That's the only backdraw of this Pokemon. It just doesn't, like, really listen that much, and it likes to loaf around too much. But overall, really great, really strong in Ash's team. Next up is Ash's Corphish. God, I love this Pokemon. It was so freaking cute, so adorable when it walked around and did its stuff. Was useful in a battle or two here or there. Wasn't really used too much, though, but it was a strong fighter Pokemon. It was like a strong fighting Pokemon rather than a fighter. But it was a strong fighter, strong fighting, a Pokemon that liked to, be in battles. Unfortunately, did never get to, like, get evolved, which would have been great if it did. Next up is going to be Ash's Talonflame. Of course, starting out as a Fletchling, it just was really cute and did a lot of work. And this is probably one of the Pokemon that I would say, like, wasn't a lot, like, quite a lot of battles for Ash. Like, and it did a lot of good work, if I'm going to be frankly honest. And also showed up in the perfect timing where I used Talonflame as, when I was younger, within competitive battling. So seeing, Ash have a Talonflame eventually, I was like, that's awesome. So yeah, really works out well. Next up, though, is going to be Ash's Heracross, and man, I love this Pokemon. I love it especially, like, when it, like I think within Master Quest and whatnot, when it shows up, and man, this Pokemon was freaking cool. Next up, it's going to be Ash's Gliscor, and Gliscor, to me, is such a cool Pokemon. It kind of reminds me a lot of, like, Noivern in style and whatnot, and that kind of, like, Pokemon, within design, but then as Ash used it, it kind of had that same feeling. It was one of the Pokemon that really, like, still really close to Ash, and man, I really liked it. It was really cool. Next up is going to be Lapras. Unfortunately, Lapras really didn't get to shine more than, within the Orange Islands. It's, kind of like a Pokemon that I really wish could have gotten way more limelight, but unfortunately didn't. Could have been a very strong Pokemon for Ash as well, because think about it, like, Lapras is generally speaking very strong. Unfortunately, though, hasn't showed up again, has been kind of left behind, but it is what it is. Next up is Ash's Goodra. Now, this Pokemon is awesome, man. The journey that he had with, getting a Goomy and then evolving it into Sligo and whatnot, all the way to a Goodra was awesome. And that final episode, man, when he leaves Goodra, God, that episode is depressing, man. It's such a freaking sad moment. Next up is going to be Butterfree, and this is literally has to be on this list and on the higher tier here, because the simple fact that Butterfree was Ash's first Pokemon, rather Caterpie was his first Pokemon, and of course it had the saddest send-off, in my opinion, out of any of the other Pokemon, man. Like, Ash being so sad and, like, crying almost, or actually, I think they did cry, when Butterfree left, left and just went on this journey with his, like, little waifu and whatnot. It was kind of a sad moment, if I'm going to be honest. But next up is going to be Ash's Kingler. Man, when he caught this thing, like, it was so freaking cute, because it was, like, foaming from the mouth and whatnot, and just being so freaking weird. And then using it in, like, higher battles and whatnot was great. It was a useful Pokemon. Unfortunately, I wish it would show up again, or maybe return in, like, a future episode. It would be really cool if it did. But, yeah, man, it would be great, though. But I love this Pokemon, dude. Like, just going around, foaming in its mouth, being all weird. Freaking awesome. Next up is going to be the Primeape, and boy, Ash's Primeape is a Pokemon I miss, man. The episode where Ash gets this Pokemon, and then the episode like where, you know, he's in the kind of like boxing, like the boxing ring episode and whatnot. God, I love that episode so much, dude. It's so fondly remembered. I even had that on VHS. Like, that's how much I remember that, dude. It was such an awesome episode, and Primeape definitely deserves to return to Ash's team. Next up is going to be Ash's Lycanroc, and the reason I love this Pokemon is because it actually was one of the few Pokemon that I can remember that was out during the era of its own generation, like, and revealed prior to the upcoming games, which was really cool. It was revealed in the anime episode that this was going to be a Dusk Lycanroc, and Ash got, like, you know, pretty much the first one, so it's pretty cool. It's a really cool Pokemon. Next up is Ash's Hawlucha. This is a strong Pokemon. Undeniably one of Ash's, like, you know, just most powerful across the board Pokemon that he's used. Had a great journey with Ash and did a lot of great work. Next up is going to be Ash's Infernape, and again, another Pokemon that was really freaking strong, and you'll notice most of the Pokemon I go through right now are going to be mostly his strong Pokemon, and this was definitely one of his strongest across the board. You know, the fact that, you know, just he managed to evolve it all the way to the end, which he doesn't always do with his starter type Pokemon, you know what I mean? It was so awesome, man. Just definitely an awesome Pokemon. Next up is Ash's Sceptile, and oh, buddy, I love this Pokemon. It was my favorite Pokemon in Hoenn, and I loved it so much, and just seeing Ash using it, dude, and making it so far with this Pokemon, as a Trico, catching it, you know, Trico being so badass, with, like, you know, this little, like, twig in its mouth, and just walking around, being so freaking cool, all the way into a freaking Sceptile is so freaking badass, dude. But yeah, next up though is going to be Ash's Muck, and I love Muck. The episode where he catches it is such a strange episode, and him catching it was so kind of weird, but man, it was useful in battles later on. Like, it actually ended up being really, really strong for him. Next up though is going to be Ash's Pikachu. Of course, Pikachu, first ever Pokemon he owned. Of course, one of the Pokemon that's been around with him for the longest amount of time, so of course has to be on this list. But yeah, overall Pokemon that I care less about than the other two on this list that remain, which are going to be Ash's Greninja. Now, this Pokemon started off with a really sad kind of manner, you know, trying to work its way all the way to the top, kind of joining in Ash early on, you know, kind of being very intrigued by him, wanting to battle with him and that, what, you know, whatnot, and eventually making it all the way to a Greninja, and then Ash Greninja, dude. Like, that was such an awesome moment when that happened. But, and of course, at number 2, we have to have Rowlett. This is one of the freaking best Pokemon Ash has ever owned. Like, hands down, one of the best Pokemon he's ever owned. It's so adorable. It's the most meme-worthy Pokemon he's ever had in his team. Just think about it. Like, I don't think there's any Pokemon that has as many memes related to it as Rowlett does. So definitely one of the most awesome Pokemon. Of course, one of my favorite Pokemon. So, yeah, let's go to the next one. Finally, we have Ash's Charizard, and you all know we had to add Charizard in the top here. I love Charizard. It's one of the most popular Pokemon, one of the most known Pokemon, one of the most badass Pokemon of all time, and Ash's Charizard had the most strange dynamic, being brought in as a Charmander, having one of the saddest kind of backstories as well, being a Pokemon that was kind of left behind by its trainer, almost to the point where it could have not been alive anymore by, you know, the fact that its flame could have, you know, ran out fully. This Pokemon brings it back by evolving, being really, really angry, but always sticking by Ash and being one of his best, if not the best Pokemon Ash has had around. So yeah, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be the end of this video. If you guys did enjoy it, then drop a like down below. Make sure to subscribe, and if you want to see more videos like this, feel free to suggest some down below if you want to see, like, me ranking some other things in my opinion. But yeah, thanks so much for watching the video, guys. Have yourselves a great day, and bye-bye, ladies and gentlemen.